and welcome back to the Overwatch Pacific Championship. We've just seen Flash Wolves take down Detonator Gold, and now they'll be taking on the likes of Blank Esports. I'm Dallas Easy Fighter. Joining me here, Matt Smite Ross and Kevin Averill Hard Worker. It's a pleasure to have you all here. Very excited to see what our Flash Wolves can bring to the table and how they're going to fare against Blank, though.
This is the one I think we've all been waiting for. I think this is the one that Flash Wolves have definitely been waiting for as well. If Detonator was a chance to show that they picked up their game since last week, Blank will be the real test to see exactly how far they picked it up.
Yeah, I mean, Flash Wolves have had a very disappointing week last week, dropping games to not just AHQ, but also Marchi Esports, the team that was, at the time, the 6th in the rankings, right? They were way down at the bottom. Flash Wolves is a team that everyone says they're a favorite to come in here and maybe even win, maybe even beat Blank, but hey, look, you know, they had a pretty bad week last week, and like you said, if there's ever a time for them to redeem themselves, it's today. They were always expected to beat Detonator, but Blank, they've only had one loss so far. Flash Wolves need to come back.
Speaking of redemption, Blank will definitely be back with that as well. After losing to AHQ Esports last night, I should probably say, against Flash Wolves, this has got to be a win for Blank because they need to be able to show they are still the dominant team. A loss to Flash Wolves would now set AHQ in the #1 spot. I think I'd be correct on that one. AHQ are currently only at #2. They're equal wins with Blank, but they're only #2 with the additional loss, which was against Blank earlier on and against Flash Wolves earlier on in the series. So for Flash Wolves, it's a chance for them to prove they've come back, and for Blank, it's a chance to prove they're still on top.
I think it's a very sort of interesting story now between, I guess, the two of these teams, because Flash Wolves definitely, I guess, want to get a little bit of revenge, you know, after Blank took them down in their first matchup here. And now I think, obviously, for Blank, you know, it's kind of time to see how they deal, you know, coming off a loss. You know, they've been in such a big winning streak, I suppose. And now it's going to be really interesting to see if they are, you know, one of those wounded animals that kind of whimpers and cowers once they get hurt, or, you know, do they bite back? Do they come back with a bit of fierceness? And I think that's what we're really looking forward to seeing.
Well, that's another interesting thing, right? I mean, not just in this tournament that they've been undefeated until last night, but also since many games beforehand. I think we're going all the way back to the start of the year, in fact, is the last time that this roster has actually lost. And in fact, even been behind in a best of series. I think they've lost some best of ones, like maybe once during a group stage in another tournament, but they've never been behind in a best of series until their match against AHQ last night, where at one point they were 1-2 down. And that's the first time that's happened in a very, very long time.
I mean, they rallied quite well, you know, when they were 1-2 down. They definitely sort of answered back, you know, with, I think, Ata instantly went onto the Genji. I think they even put Eat-Up on a Soldier at one point, which was obviously, you know, that's business time right there, when, you know, Eat-Up's usually been on that Tracer. But I guess now it's really not only them being behind in a series and how they bounce back, but obviously, you know, coming off a loss, that's really, I guess, the true test of strength. You know, AHQ lost a couple of times, and they definitely came back with, you know, that ferocity that we were looking forward to seeing, you know, in such a sort of long-winded tournament like this.
Yeah, and speaking of the length of the tournament as well, Flash Wolves, a little bit of setback, but I have full confidence that throughout the length of the tournament, they will maintain at least a top 3 spot. I have no sort of fear that Flash Wolves aren't going to make playoffs. At the same time, where exactly do Flash Wolves sit in this top 3 position? And you almost got to start to question where Blank sit there as well. Currently still #1, but Flash Wolves, they've wanted to challenge Blank, and they've been so far up until last night, they've been the primary contenders to take down Blank. Now they're already second to that against AHQ. AHQ are definitely looking like the dominant team as well as Blank. We said this yesterday as well. When we look at those rankings, when we look at the scoreboard, it's now looking like top 1 and 2 AHQ and Blank are in a bit of a league of their own. Flash Wolves have sort of been kicked out of that club, and now they want re-entry. They want their membership back.
Yeah, this is the night to do it as well. I mean, we also can talk about the results that might still happen. It might still result in a Flash Wolves loss, right? If Flash Wolves can take it to Game 5, I think they can still be okay with that. They can still be happy with that result, even though it's not going to put them back up into the top 2 club, which would then become the top 3 club, I guess. But at the same time, it shows that, okay, look, we've improved since last time. Remember, last week, their match against AHQ, it still went to a best of 5. Who else has gone to a best of 5 against AHQ? Blank last night. So despite Flash was still dropping the ball a little bit, they're still bringing it to some of the best teams. Still bringing it to AHQ, have already proven themselves. They've been the only team to beat Blank, not just in the OPC, but in a very, very long time period. So Flash Wolves, having also gone to a best of 5 against that team, shows that, okay, look, they're still up there. They might have dropped the ball a little bit, but they're okay. So even if they come in against Blank, because remember last time against Blank, I think it was a 3-1 where Flash Wolves took a win on Hanamura, but if they come in here and they get a 3-2 and Flash will still lose, that's still an improvement on last week. And because, like you said, this is a very long tournament, it shows progress. It's like going to the gym. You need to always be doing better than what you did yesterday, better than what you did last time.
Unless you're injured yourself, then.
Well, I don't think anyone's going to injure themselves playing
Definitely
Overwatch.
not Apudo. He's
warming up.
yeah.
He's doing good. He's doing
if anyone's not injuring themselves, it's him.
Yeah, I mean, everyone else, you got to watch out. Occupational overuse syndrome is a very deadly thing.
good. No, definitely. I mean, like in a lot of other games.
Blank
as well,
might injure
players-
each other if they lose
Look,
again.
there's the warm up. There's the warm up right there as well. You know, look at that. There it is. Look, they know. No injuries around here. I think the other thing as well is like Blank are kind of like the bouncer at the Salty Splatoon. You know, just standing there, just asking Flash Wolves in this one. You know, how tough are you? Can you get in here? Like, can you get into this sort of the league that we're sort of the precedent that we're setting up here on the 9-win club, boys?
That's the question that we're going to have to answer. Is it going to be that they only cried for 20 minutes when they stubbed their toe? Or did they eat a bowl of nails? We're really getting into the reference here. I'm literally quoting
You
the
know-
episode.
you know what I'm
I know
talking
what you're
about.
talking
Yeah,
about.
no.
Digging the
but-
wolf shirts going on here. Just a full-on wolf shirt. Just got a big wolf in the middle of that shirt.
Yeah, let's see if they can howl their way to victory, though. I mean, they've had a pretty good warm-up here, but I feel if they come in with the same sort of intensity they had against Detonator, they're going to really have a hard time against Blank. Blank, I think, really going to punish them for those sort of mistakes that we saw them make throughout that Detonator Gold series.
Silver lining might be that maybe Detonator got a bit better, but that's the hope for Flash Wolves going up against Blank. If you're looking for a close series, you want to hope that Detonator just did really well against Flash Wolves, and it wasn't a case of Flash Wolves dropping the ball to Detonator.
But also look at the situations that Flash Wolves they were constantly put in, right? They lost Bacon Jack at the start of one of their fights and still managed to bring him back during the same fight, and Detonator weren't able to punish that. Blank, however, Blank is
They're gonna be all over
absolutely
that. They're gonna be all over that.
100% going to be punishing mistakes like that. Even small things like your Tracer walked a little bit too close to a McCree, flashbang dead, and now numbers disadvantage, you're going to lose this next fight. This is something that Blank is going to punish, whether it's you stepping off the point, you losing a member at the start of a fight, you accidentally committing one too many ultimates to a team fight. It's these little things, and Blank are just going to pounce on them the same way AHQ did to Blank last night.
But I guess to sort of counteract that point there, last night we actually saw a few mistakes coming out from the side of Blank. I mean, there's some times where they actually should have fallen back. They actually committed a little bit too much to a couple of fights as well. And I think as long as Eat Up sort of doesn't get caught in these, you know, these sort of Tracer battles with Bacon Jack, which I can sort of expect to see coming out, I think Blank will have a good time there, but it is going to be Flash Wolves actually picking Nepal here, so a little bit different, a little bit... is it going to be made of ice again, though? That's the real question.
Oh man, I hope so. I hope so. I was so jealous of you guys getting to do that. That looked like so much fun.
Well.
But, I mean, hey.
We're going to get a shot at this one.
Like fun or just mind-numbing? Like what is this?
You,
Overwatch?
you guys were laughing your heads off. That looked like fun to me.
Yeah,
Laughing
true.
or crying? I
True.
don't know. Like you.
Is
I
it?
don't know, it's
I
probably,
mean, it sounded like laughing, but really you didn't see my face, which is.
So if you're wondering what we're referring to, last time we saw sort of Nepal get played here, there was just a plethora of environmental kills, just knockoff after knockoff.
It was Flash Wolves as well.
There was, yeah. So there's Boopios off the edge, there's hooks off the edge, there's divas pushing people off the edge. It's just madness coming into this one here. But I feel like Blank aren't going to fall into that sort of trap there. We'll see though.
I'm gonna fall into the endless pit.
Yeah, I've talked about this as well. Like, who designed Sanctum? Like, which Omnic thought, like, oh, let's not put a safety rail up here. You know what's a good feature for this big room? A bottomless pit.
Well, they're robots, so it's like they're not in their coding. They're like, well, I'm not going to walk off the edge because we don't make mistakes. We only get killed by Widowmakers.
I guess. I suppose. Yeah, you've got me there, right? But in any case, it's a real threat, okay? So, Avril's talked about this before. There are swing maps or swing stages on Control, right? And Sanctum, I've got to say, is one of them. It gets you to play a pretty different team composition to the other two maps, or at least there's one that's usually just a little bit more favored, and there's just so much more going on Sanctum, so much more that can go wrong. Like we saw on that very hilarious highlight clip where everyone just started falling down the pit.
I'm gonna really favor Blank for Control specifically, just because they've mastered their triple DPS so well that specifically on Shrine and Village, they're really gonna walk over Flash Wolves, who are still very much testing the waters with their triple DPS lineup, and it's not refined for Flash Wolves at all. That being the case, Flash Wolves might have a better chance on Sanctum. Still not super convinced at this stage, so for Control, for Nepal, I'm thinking this goes in Blank's favor pretty easily. Now it's the other maps now, especially when we get to Assault, which traditionally has been a bit weak. But yesterday it was King's Road, it was Hybrid that actually looked a little bit weak.
A little bit?
Yeah, I mean, 2 hybrids down. Nimbani, was it? Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was 2 hybrids that Blank lost. So, I mean, it's Hybrid and beyond where I think Flash Wolves would be able to pick up the game. I'm not so confident about Control for them.
Well,
that's fair.
To Hybrid and beyond, but first up, we're going to be having Nepal, just moments away from getting into that one. I think something else to talk about just before we get into this is we haven't really seen, True on the Reinhardt anymore. He's usually been sort of playing that DPS, so I think it's going to be interesting to see who's playing what here, because that, I think, is really going to set, I guess, the level of intensity that Blank are trying to bring to the game here as well. And we are underway, actually. So right into this is actually going to be Trill on the Genji. So Blank opting for that triple DPS again here, and seeing if that is going to be what pushes them over the edge here. Bacon Jack slightly falling behind in this Tracer on Tracer duel here.
Well, I mean, they're both recall anyway, nullifying any kind of victory or any kind of advantage either one has got. It's really simply just an ult charge you're going to get. Flash Wolves, they're not running the triple DPS this time. They're feeling a little bit safer with K-Momo on D.Va. Now, I think this is an alright idea because ATAR and Blank as a whole, they run triple DPS. It's going to be a soldier. K-Momo can go in and completely deny that. So the D.Va pick up pretty good here. Now, however, Flash Wolves, they picked up the first kill here.
And that's a very important one because obviously the only tank on the side of Blank there. So now, let's see what the rest of these players can do. They are just going to fall back to the early doorway. Now they should be able to re-engage. Kiki should be making his way back into this fight. Will there be a contest? Indeed it will be. Flash is getting extremely close to the cap, and indeed it does fall their way. Now RQT looking to get a little bit of the Bupio going on, looking for a kill off the edge there. But the rest of his teammates just wiping this one up. Trill keeping it chill here with that Dragon Blade up in the back line, just wiping it up, and this should be recap for Blank. Indeed it is.
Trill just getting a single kill just to secure that first fight and that first point for Blank. And, well, I feel like Flash Wolves with that early pick, they could have been a little bit more aggressive. They tried to have someone on the point because obviously you want to cap it right at the start, but they weren't moving up to the doors. They weren't trying to lock Blank in that first room. And, as soon as EUP noticed that, he was able to move out, pick up a trade back kill, and then even things up. And that's when Blank get aggressive. When they know that Flash Wolves, they've dedicated people to the point, you can just go and jump on them.
Zonda doing a decent amount of chip damage over here. Does have a lot of teammates to work with. Bacon Jack now picks up that kill onto Eat Up, so wins that Tracer duel. Manages to find ATAR with the Pulse Bomb as well. Now Gumba left alone here, does manage to have Kiki to back him up, but finds a kill on him as well. Now Flash Wolves getting right in the thick of things here, wiping Blank out, and that's going to be a recap there for Flash Wolves. And Zonda still got that tactical visor to work with.
And this is where Flash Wolves need to start looking to play differently. They're not opting to hold the door. They're not opting to hold Blank at that choke point. Now, this is mostly because they're not running a big death ball composition. There's no Graviton Surge to worry about. There's no Reinhardt to protect you. So you do actually have to let Blank come in through and then dive on top of them as soon as they leave those doors. You make sure that they don't get to go into position and dive on top of you.
Trill getting very low right there. Sound barrier just in time to keep him alive. Trill has no one to back him up. Now Bacon Jack doing good work here up in the back lines. What a player he is. And that Transcendence going to be able to keep a few of these Blank members alive, but not for long, as that self-destruct now coming up in the back. And that's going to be K-Momo picking up a double there. Flash Wolves easily winning this fight now. Blank have to fall back, and Flash Wolves just passing 50% now. Blank need to come up with something soon. They committed a little bit too much to that fight.
That was a fight that Blank went in to win, and they ended up just not getting any value out of it at all. In fact, Bacon Jack being a huge savior for Flash Wolves there, just being on the back line, constantly harassing them, and even picking up kills. Didn't even need Pulse Bomb during that fight, so he's going to be an even deadlier threat this time. There's no sound barrier to save Blank. There's no Transcendence. They are simply going to be at the threat of Bacon Jack, but not if he's dead.
Well, Kiki hitting the Primal Rage now, jumping straight onto Zonda. Does have that Harmony Orb on him. Will it be able to sustain him through this? Great stuff here from Kiki to push him up into the wall, but they can't find the kill, and the only Eat Up finding this kill onto the side of Flash Flash Wolves now, this is going to be very disastrous as they're forced into this choke point now. The tactical visor from Zonda easily cleaning up these last few players from Blank here. And Flash Wolves still holding onto the cap, 90% now, still have a few ultimates to work with too.
And it's still Blank committing ults to fights, and you know, it's not huge ones, but the big one, really especially, was Trill and his Dragon Blade. That's now not available. Zonda just simply reacted, used tactical visor, that shut him down. Now Flash Wolves, it's an overtime. They can just simply kill Blank as they start coming in, but how many ults do they have? Only Transcendence, and that's now run out.
But that doesn't matter though, as they already at that player disadvantage there. There was a couple of trades now coming up from the side of Blank, and Eat-Up trying for this hero play right now. He's going to have to deal with Zonda on the point, but he does have the likes of K-Momo to back him up here as well. Eat-Up trying to contest there. He drops down overtime, ticking down, and Flash Wolves are going to be setting the tone of this one, 1-0 on the first stage here.
And wow, Flash Wolves, wouldn't you say they're doing pretty well there, Easy? I mean, this could be the start of a regicide here, taking the Kings down right now. And even though AHQ have already done it, remember that if Flash Wolves take down Blank right now, they'll be tied with AHQ at first. Blank are suddenly going to have to start to share their throne. They're not allowed to be at the top, undefeated anymore. So Flash Wolves, this is a good start. So maybe I'm getting ahead of myself when I'm talking about Flash Wolves, Blank suddenly having to share their throne, but hey, I mean, good start here, but that was the swing map.
Well, no changes made here on the side of Flash Wolves. Same thing now coming up from the side of Blank as well. Interesting to note still, you know, Atar on that Soldier, Trill on the Genji. When they sort of switch over here, I think that's when we're really going to see, I guess, a different level of intensity coming up from the side of Blank, but Eat-Up still opting on that Tracer. Did quite a decent amount of work in that last engagement now. They are already getting pushed off this one as Flash Wolves get a little bit better position here, but they're walking into the rifle of Atar. But he's now instantly pressured, gets taken out of this fight as well. And this is going to be Flash Wolves completely.
Yeah, I mean, Flash Wolves, they pulled back and they punished Kiki as soon as he jumped in. I mean, Winston, it's a dangerous thing to go in. You get a lot of cleave damage, your shield's there, sure, but when multiple members of Flash Wolves, in fact, basically their entire team were there, that 500 HP does not mean a whole lot. You take them down. Now, Flash Wolves, they've got the point. They're entrenched. They still don't have any ultimates. Blank, if they go in early enough, they might be able to take a fight where that advantage is not going to be a huge thing, but Bacon Jack surely is going to get his ultimate ready.
Well, 5-on-5 right now. The pulse bomb from Eat-Up opening things up there, getting a double with that one. The mech of K-Momo there, and now Eat-Up should be able to wipe out these last few squishy players up in the back lines here. Cap going to be falling in the way of Blank. Nothing Flash Wolves can say to that one there. Only getting themselves 29% as well on their first hold.
Yeah, not even the most impressive percentage on the first hold either. Now, Bacon Jack, with that pulse bomb, he can be the swinger of this fight here. He can actually change things over to Flash Wolves' favor without having to use too many ultimates either. Blank still don't have a lot to go with either. They need to build up Trill's ultimate. That Dragon Blade needs to be ready for this next fight. If Bacon Jack can get in there, start the fight early by getting a pulse bomb, then that's the moment for Flash Wolves to jump in. They've even got Tactical Visor to follow it up, but they need to save some of these ultimates so they can still defend it after they take the point back.
Now watch out for Zonda here on the left side. Does have the Tactical Visor to work with, and Bacon Jack obviously going around on that right side flank, getting himself in a good position. Tactical Visor instantly pressured out there. That's a very big kill for the side of Blank here, but that Primal Rage now being committed for the side of Flash Wolves there. Jongi didn't really find too much with that one, but the rest of his players are there to have his back. Now Dragon Blade from Trill managed to find one, looks for a second, finds a Diva shotgun to the face right there, so that's going to be disastrous now for the side of Blank. Do they have enough in the tank left to hold this one down? Eat-Up again with that hero play, does have a few teammates to work with here. That self-destruct in a very nice position there to buy them some time on the point now. Should be able to force Blank slowly off this one. Gumba hitting the Transcendence though to swing the fight back in their favor.
Blank are slowly losing this fight, but they've been holding on to the point for a very long time. I mean, still, they're losing members here, but look at all the percentage that's racking up. We're sitting at 70% here. This is the time where even if Blank do lose the point here, they can still come back in and be in a very strong position, giving Flash Wolves the option of only one more fight.
No, this is absolutely great stuff there from Blank. That huge Transcendence from Gumba there just to keep this fight going for such an extended amount of time. Now 84% on the cap. Nothing really that Blank can say about the cap finally falling in the way of Flash Wolves now, but Flash Wolves committed so much to that fight, almost putting both of these teams now back on equal ground here. So a lot is going to come now into this next dry sort of fight Zonda will not have that tactical visor to work with. Bacon Jack very unlikely to have a pulse bomb. Eat up.
No! Eat up was the big one. He needed to get that pulse bomb, and he died at the start of that. That was the biggest asset for Blank.
Oh, Trill needs to run away with his tail between his legs right now, otherwise he's going to fall down here. Atar, though, in a good position, but not when there's 4 members of Flashwolves all over him right now. Running back to your Lucio is a smart idea, but back to the spawn room, he's going to be sent. And now Flashwolves is going to be able to hold on to this one. Blank getting themselves a decent amount of cap time, but do charge a few ultimates off that.
Well, Flashwolves committed a sound barrier to that. Blank can be okay with that. They are winning on ultimate trades, just a 0 for 1. That's exactly what they want, but they're still limited on time. Flashwolves, I mean, they were sitting at 33% when they capped the point. Now they're sitting at 75%. This is realistically Blank's last shot, last fight. After this, it's going to be desperation.
Oh, that's big. That's big right there. Trill managing to take out Realment very early into that, but he gets taken out before he gets to use the Dragon Blade. Now the tactical visor from Atar needs to do work. He needs to put that broom out and clean this one up. And Eat Up with that pulse bomb as well, managing to find that support. A couple of trades there for the side of Flashwolves, but Eat Up very much uncontested in the back lines here. But this Winston is just going in right now. Jongi is absolutely huge with Bacon Jack at his side. There's nothing they can do there. Can't even keep it into overtime. And Flashwolves 2-0.
Easy. What are we seeing? This is 2-0 to Flashwolves. This is absolutely incredible coming out from them right now. Blank, they're fighting back, and they're even making some very correct macro decisions where they're going in, trying to buy time. In fact, buying a lot of time on that point was absolutely huge. They set themselves up in a position for one more fight win to take the stage there, but instead, they ended up losing it and just wasting too much time as well. And then eventually Flashwolves, well, they caught up.
Well, Zonda looking very animated there. He's obviously figured something out for the Blank side. And now this is going to have to be where Blank turn up. It's going to be Atar now running on the Pharah. So very interesting to note they aren't running that pharmacy combo there. And he's going to have to deal with Zonda, obviously trying to take him out. Now Eat Up going to be charging right into the lines of Bacon Jack there.
I want Flashwolves to recognize the Pharah and just dive on top of Blank right now. You've got Pharah up in the sky, not a great defensive hero, but it's actually Blank getting incredibly aggressive and getting the mech already at the start of this fight.
So they will be able to get themselves in a decent position here. Don't have to worry too much about that defense matrix for a little while just yet. This might be Flashwolves giving up the first cap here, but let's see how they're going to deal with this. Bacon Jack taken out early there by Eat Up, and Atar getting around the side here, looking to find himself some kills as the Flashwolves side stack up just through that gate.
Just kills, you don't have to give up as Flashwolves. It was time to back off, but Blank punished them. Now Flashwolves, they've recognized, hey, Atar's up in the sky on that Pharah. Maybe let's try and go around on the lower ground, try and force Pharah into an awkward position. On the left-hand side, from their perspective, they can actually force Atar just in awkward positions, and you can already see Bacon Jack, he's looking to sneak around. Even getting up on this balcony does give him kill potential onto Atar, whether he's in the sky or not.
Yeah, this is great positioning here from Bacon Jack, and not only that, great patience now coming out from him as he sits in here and waits for the rest of his team to start this fight off. Now he's in a good spot here trying to take down the Zenyatta, but he pays with his life right now. Without him there to be that thorn in the side of Blank, they should be able to clean up the rest of this fight now, but Zonda finding that kill onto Eat Up, so no Tracer actually for both sides here. Even trades actually across the board. We're now on that 4v4 as Flashwolves control the high ground, force Blank down onto the cap now. Sound barrier is going to have to be committed into this one, but Flashwolves are not letting up. They're not scared of the sound barrier at all. Pulse bomb thrown out. That's going to take Zonda out, and that's going to be a big kill. But look at that. Bacon Jack finds his pulse bomb onto Kiki. So now Flashwolves coming out on top here. This should be them capping the point off Blank, unless anyone can hold on to this.
Wow, and that was a fight where Flashwolves, they could have even backed off of that because they forced out a lot of ultimates from Blank, but instead they managed to actually turn it around using two not very impactful ultimates. I mean, yes, pulse bomb is impactful, but you can build it up so quickly. Look, Bacon Jack's at 60% towards this next pulse bomb. So Flashwolves, they're sitting there, they've bought out a lot of ultimates, they've stolen away the advantage from Blank. Now Blank still have some tools in the belt to go in with this, so they're not out of gas completely yet, but Flashwolves have definitely entrenched themselves on the point.
Well, Flashwolves pulling out the hammer right there, using that Transcendence to easily push into this choke room here. Kiki forced to use the Primal Rage. Where's that self-destruct though? Finds nothing there. Bad luck coming in now, that sound barrier for the side of Flashwolves to push them through this fight. Zonda hitting the tactical visor as well. This should be a very easy fight for them to finish up as Blank are just getting caught up in this choke point, but Atar finding that kill on the Realment. This is now going to be the moment for Eat Up to push in, try and find himself Sinclair. Indeed he does. The mech going to be dropping from K-Momo as well. And now Blank answering back, finding themselves some kills here. But Zonda, he's so hard to deal with. They have to commit a lot of players to it. This should be the recap now for Blank as Flash Wolves get themselves to 50%.
And in a really similar situation, Blank go into a fight, they buy out a lot of ults from Flash Wolves, and Flash Wolves suddenly they're not able to turn it around. So Blank are now sitting in the advantage. They're entrenched on the point. They are sitting at the 80% mark, which is really just one more fight for Flash Wolves to go in with. But Flash Wolves used everything in the last fight. Bacon Jack has to get so much value out of just as basic a kit.
Sound barrier now coming through as well. This should be all that Blank needs to push them through as Atar hits that tactical visor as well, picks up a pair. Is that going to be enough though? Can the rest of the Blank side do the work? Eat Up has been having a little bit of a hard time trying to find some of these kills now, but no one has really noticed him just yet. Can he manage to finish off Sinclair? That's going to be a hugely important kill, but a lot of damage being sent the rest of his way. Gumba does go down there, but Blank surely coming up with a lot of these kills now. Overtime ticking down. There's still a lot of contests now coming up from Flash Wolves. They can make their way back to the point.
Bacon Jack, he's got Pulse Bomb. If he gets value out of it, he doesn't, but he's still picking up kills.
There's a big self-destruct just to buy a little bit of time, but it looks like Flash Wolves should be able to recap off this.
No way, they actually managed to come in. Blank had everything in the world there for them. They got early kills. They still had ults in the bank to work with, but Flash Wolves still managed to win there. Bacon Jack getting back during that fight just to throw out ults. It didn't even have an effect, but he was just such a thorn in the side. And I'm not even going to say thorn in the side. He is like a sword sticking out of your waist. Kind of pain in the side right now. He is doing an amazing job, and Eat Up is just not measuring up. He did a great job on the second map, but unfortunately, Flash Wolves, it's all the Bacon Jack show right now, and Zonda is also having a big
Zonda with
too.
the big tactical visor now. This is all on who can hit the best Transcendence. Gumba uses his great timing now to push Blank through this fight. That sound barrier coming up for the side of Flash Wolves, and a Transcendence committed as well. So Blank need to find a kill, and they need to find it fast as Flash Wolves tick over 90%, but they do have more ultimates in the bank, the side of Flash Wolves. There's the sound barrier now coming up for the side of Blank. Optimistic Pulse Bomb there. Doesn't connect. Atar finds that kill onto Realment, but there comes the trade right back. It's going to be Sinclair picking up Atar here, but look at Eat Up. He's got that Pulse Bomb. He's up in the back lines. He finds that kill as well, finds a second as well. That is absolutely huge now for the side of Blank. Overtime ticking down. They are back in control of the point as well. It's going down. Is anyone on Flash Wolves there to stop it? It's going to be Zonda, the big man himself. Can they even find that kill onto him? Indeed they do, and the overtime ticks down, but it's back again. It's a sneaky Lucio right back onto the point, and surely this is going to be Blank picking up their first stage.
And Australian fans can breathe a sigh of relief. Blank are not out of this just yet. They're not looking to get 3-0'd on Nepal, on Control as well by Flash Wolves, who have just come out so strong today. And I am so impressed with Bacon Jack and how much of an effect he's been having against Blank, constantly going unpunished. Constantly in the backlines, very aggressive. There's a Lucio, there's a Zenyatta. He is shooting them, he is firing, hounding upon them, and Blank are just, they're not able to dedicate any resources to dealing with them. And Eat You Up is still not having the effect I'd like to see him have, not compared to Bacon Jack right now.
Not at all, and it looks like Blank are not willing to change anything up here. I mean, same for the side of Flash Wolves as well, you know. What's working is working, and let's see who comes out on the top of this. Blank think they have come up with something a little bit different coming into this one.
So, I mean, let's look at the compositions, right? You've got Trill on Genji instead of K-Momo on D.Va, right? So you've got to start getting value out of that Dragon Blade more than what K-Momo can do with his defense matrix, which shuts down Atar's ult, which has the possibility of shutting down a Pulse Bomb from Eat You Up. But hey, look, when you get picks at the start of the fight, that's also enough to
What is happening? That's an absolute mess here. Bacon Jack in such a great early position there, getting himself around up on the high ground and managing to flank the side of Blank as that fight starts there. Blank don't even exist in this fight right here. Flash Wolves didn't even put up any kind of sweat right there for that fight.
And Zonda's close enough to his tactical visor that he will get it during the next fight. Just needs to hit a few shots, right? And that's going to be a big thing to shut down Blank. They don't run D.Va. That's not going to be an option for shutting it down. And so anything they have to win this next fight is just going to be useless, right? Trill in the backline just going to be shut down by Zonda unless he throws out Deflect. So it's really going to be on Eat You Up to find a Pulse Bomb, but there's the tactical visor.
Yeah, coming in from Zonda right now. Can they counterplay around this? Unlikely. Great position coming out from Zonda. He's just going to be able to clean up the side of Blanket. That's going to be a Pulse Bomb committed to that one as well. So maybe a little bit of an overcommitment there. I feel like the tactical visor definitely would have been enough for that. but Flash Wolves looking very dominant here on Nepal.
Blank did go into that fight pretty early, so it didn't take a lot of time for them to buy ults out of Flash Wolves. Tactical Visor gone, Bacon Jack's Pulse Bomb's now gone. So now it's Eat You Up's turn. He's got to get the value, and now importantly, it's going to be Trill and even Atar. They're going to have more DPS ults up for Blank, and they're already entrenching themselves on the point. They should be able to win this fight.
Now, good stuff here, jumping straight into Jongi, but Jongi was ready for it there, hitting that Primal Rage, making Blank waste a lot of time, being an absolute master baiter there, and Flash Wolves now pushing through this one very easily, picking themselves up a couple of kills, and now Blank, again, are just going to have to fall back off this one, and they just cannot really find the decisions that are going to win them the fights.
Well, to Blank's credit, they're losing these fights so hard that they don't have a chance to actually use their ults, so they will come into the next one with 6 ults. Zonda is still not anywhere close to his. Even Bacon Jack is going to take a while to ramp up to his, so here's the advantage.
This Dragon Blade needs to come up big right now, but look at that Transcendence coming through as well, very early from Gumba just to push him through this, but Sinclair has a Transcendence of his own there. Now that Tac Visor as well coming through from Atar, picks up the first one onto Realman, and this seems to be the kill that they seem to be able to open with, but then Flash will just answer back. Now finally, 3 kills there in the way of Blank. This is surely their fight to win, their cap to gain, and indeed it is, but Flash was all the way up to 97%.
And you say surely it's their fight to win. Of course it is. 6 ultimates used. They used absolutely everything they had in that fight. They've got nothing to compete against what Flash Wolves have. They've finally swapped Trill over onto the Diva. They're recognizing, okay, look, we're not getting value out of Dragon Blade. Let's shut down Zonda. Let's fly into his face with that defense matrix, because that's going to come into play for the next fight. This is what Flash Wolves need to win. If they can get Trill out of the mech, that's great for Zonda. He will actually get value out of it. So maybe Flash Wolves are just going to wait for that, but they don't have a huge amount of time, but they do just need to win one more fight.
Oh, Gumba goes down, and now the Tactical Visor from Zonda comes through. Blank have nothing to really protect them from this other than the Diva. Doesn't really find too much mileage out of it, actually. It's going to be the self-destruct coming through just to buy them a little bit of space here. Now Kiki drops down. Eat Up finally does manage to pick up a kill in the back lines, but still Zonda just going to work here. No one really putting enough pressure onto him, and this is surely going to be Flash Wolves coming out on top of this fight. And with 97%, is there anyone on the Blank side that's going to be able to contest? There's a sneaky little RQT on the point. He falls as well now. Now here comes this recap from Flash Wolves. 98.
Is anyone
99.
close?
Overtime ticking down. Eat Up with a dream. Throws a pulse bomb out. Gets a kill. Overtime ticking down. It's still kept alive right now by Kiki. But what is going on here? There's no one else. Gets smacked away by the Primal Rage. And that's going to be Flash Wolves picking up the first map. Unbelievable. And Blank firing blanks there on Nepal.
Flash Wolves take down Blank on control. It was also Blank's pick. Blank? No.
Flash Wolves.
Flash
Flash
Wolves.
Wolves. Flash Wolves.
Flash Wolves pick, sorry.
Flash Wolves pick.
Yeah, Flash Wolves pick. So they do manage to take out a win here, and not just any kind of win either. Blank looked like they were struggling to fight back through a lot of that, even on the final map here on Shrine. They were throwing out 6 ultimates in a single fight, and that was the only fight that they managed to win there. It really felt like they were just on the back foot the entire series.
I'll tell you what, I'm the real master baiter here, because I said, look, control was always going to be a weak point for Flash Wolves, and the reason it was going to be a weak point, I expected Flash Wolves to lose this one and do better on the hybrids, X-Schools, and Assault, is because Flash Wolves just got a worse triple DPS. Straight about that, no lies there, that's just what it is, it's the honest truth. How do you play around that? Well, yeah, simple. You don't run the triple DPS. You run a 2-2-2 the whole way as Flash Wolves. Bingo, you just found your win condition. You just found your victory. So if this was going to be the hardest game mode for Flash Wolves, it's actually looking pretty good now moving on.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried for Blank.
I'm definitely worried for Blank. I was going to say, before we got into this matchup here about if Flash Wolves were holding anything back coming up against Detonator, maybe, throwing a spanner in the works with, running that triple DPS, or, some of these options that they chose, and Blank were obviously sitting there watching them, taking notes, being like, oh yeah, we can deal with that. We can deal with that. And then obviously Flash was just taking it back to basics right now, and just Blank had really no answer for that.
No, I mean, I think the biggest thing that they didn't have an answer for was Bacon Jack. That guy was never punished. He was always in the back line. Occasionally, he'd get hit by some random AoE and eventually die, but it was really just Bacon Jack getting so much value.
I do want to correct something though, because on Village, where you mentioned, I think Bacon Jack overall probably had a bit more impact. It was very even. I would say Eat Up and Bacon Jack had roughly even impact. Atar, on the other hand, far less than Zonda. I think that was just what the truth was for that. So everyone else's, they just did their jobs. It was fine. I want to say also that Jongi outplayed Kiki on several occasions, so there was that to sort of consider as well. In many situations, like Kiki just died instantly on Winston, Jongi didn't. So, and Jongi got a lot of kills. There was a moment where, I think it was the first shrine, where Jongi single-handedly just took out 3, maybe 4 targets, like 3 targets in a mech, something crazy like that. So, and we were saying, like AHQ, when Dizzy dies, does the rest of the team pick up? They do. Now for Flash Wolves, maybe if Zonda's out of the picture, maybe Bacon Jack's not there, suddenly Jongi's here lightninging everyone to death and he's making sure his team is still within the fight. Now, when we talk about Eat Up, he won that village for me because right at the end, he got the initial pickup on the crucial fight for Flash Wolves to come back on. Can't remember who it was on. I think it was on Sinclair, the Zenyatta. And then he gets the craziest pulse bomb stick onto Bacon Jack I've ever seen. It was like, the reaction for that was like, it's Bacon Jack blinking past him and he's just like, take this on your way, see ya. And then Bacon Jack explodes and that was a quick 2 kills and annihilating Bacon Jack right at the top of the fight like that means his biggest competition is just gone. Instantly turning a 6v4, that's a win for Blank. That one play, going from 1 kill and then a pulse bomb onto another kill, and again, crazy stick that was, so the reactions required for that is amazing. And that's a game-winning play from Eat Up.
Yeah, I mean, it won them the map for sure, and it's a flashy play, no doubt about that. Like, huge amount of reaction time to, well, huge low amount of reaction time, I suppose, to actually get that stick onto him. But at the same time, Bacon Jack was getting a lot of the same results during a lot of the rest of Nepal, and you didn't have to do a huge amount of flashy plays for it. Sure, he got some of them, probably nothing on the level of what Eat You Up did there, but at the same time, he was constantly in the backline, constantly getting those kills, constantly demanding attention.
And so was Eat Up. But the difference is the rest of the Blank lineup were melting, especially Eita, especially Kiki. They were just gone. So you'll notice that Eat Up was consistently the last, if not the second to last member alive at the end of every single fight. So Eat Up was consistently pressuring, consistently damage outputting and trading, but the rest of his team's dead. And so what are you going to do as one tracer? You can't carry when that happens. So no matter how good you are as Eat Up, in a situation where the rest of your team is gone, you're just going to lose. So I think both the tracers competed very evenly. Bacon Jack probably came out a little bit on top. You're right, Bacon Jack was a little bit more consistent with the big plays when he needed them to happen. But the rest of Blank, I think we're struggling there.
I mean, I think like, I sort of talked about it at the start there. You know, like Eita playing the Soldier, True on the Genji. I mean, I really wanted to see, you know, Blank really take it back to their roots, I suppose. You know, put Eita back on the Genji. I feel like, as you mentioned, you know, he wasn't really doing enough on the Soldier, especially compared to a player like Zonda. I think if you put Eita on the Genji, he can at least almost commit to killing Zonda by himself. And so I think that might have made a big difference.
Guess what? This is the second time Blank have been led by another team.
Oh, yeah.
In a row.
Fun fact.
Are we witnessing it?
Fun facts tonight, Blank Trivia 101.
So Avril, is it going to be the second time they lose the series?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think if Flash Wolves are leading, and don't forget, there was a 3-1, and that last shrine was somewhat one-sided. It was definitely convincing for Flash Wolves. And you got to think, if Eat Up didn't pull out a huge play on Village, could have been a 3-0, and that would have been crazy because then I'd have to sit here and say, guess what? Flash Wolves just had a better control against Blank than they did against Detonator.
Blank have done the unthinkable. They have indeed picked King's Row, where last night they could not even get themselves the first cap, and now coming off a loss against...
And like I said, Australia, get your Blank faces on because they need your support.
Actually...
Get your Blank face on.
King's Row, though.
I mean, hopefully they've gone back to the drawing board, sort of worked out those issues that they ran into last night. Coming up against AHQ, I'd say AHQ is still slightly better than, they're more flexible side, I'd say, than Flash Wolves. But I mean, Flash Wolves playing, that 2-2-1 composition extremely well. That's going to work out extremely well for them on King's Row as well. I'm a bit worried for Blank.
Well, the thing is, if Flash Wolves go any time for the rest of the series, now that Flash Wolves goes back to triple DPS, I think they're going to lose.
Yeah.
But if they stay on 2-2-2 for the rest of the night, they got a good shot.
2-2-1.
King's
2-2-1.
2-2-1-1.
Yeah, they're playing with 5 people.
Yeah. Exactly,
it's that time of the night.
Yeah.
But you should have called me on that quicker. Even I was sitting there thinking 2-2-1.
I was thinking about something else. What was I trying to say though? In terms of Blank, I think you're right about HR. He needs to go back to Genji for this. And this is now when you really got to consider for Blank. Do they stick on the triple DPS as well, or do they not? Because one of the discussion points is we haven't seen Trill and Reinhardt for some time now. And maybe we're back in Kings Row. Is it time for them to bring out the Reinhardt or a Blank, so accustomed to playing triple DPS? What they've got now is exactly what they're going to keep playing to. Because Atar, like, as much as the meme is out there, he is the one shooting blanks currently for his team.
Yeah, I think with Trill on Reinhardt as well, I don't actually expect Blank to run this composition on defense, but the option's there, having that shield-based composition where on King's Row on defense on the first point, you've got a lot of options to put one of your DPS in a very, very threatening spot. Usually it's going to be a soldier. You could even put EU up on soldier if you really want to go that route. Put him up there, up on the balcony, and he becomes a massive threat, demands attention, but you've also got a very strong 4 or 5 man team on the ground, depending on whether you leave someone up there to protect EU up on the soldier. And then suddenly it becomes very hard to fight on the ground, very hard to fight up on the balcony. So there's a lot of options for that composition. Whether Blank actually runs it though is another question. I still think that they're going to run this triple DPS
Yeah, I think
dive
they're just going to
composition.
consider all their options. I just don't think they should pigeonhole themselves too hard here. They have to, and they absolutely do understand that their team is actually quite flexible in terms of what they can run, and B, how comfortable and how well practiced they are at running just about everything. So I don't think Blank should at any stage feel like they must play something, and they should consider all options at this stage.
Well, moments away from Kings Row, Blank trailing in the series to Flashwolves, down 1 game so far. This is going to be Blank's pick coming into this one. And now it's going to be interesting to see if we're going to be witnessing the fall from grace. Obviously, Blank dropping their first series yesterday. Is it going to be a repeat of this? We're about to find out. Going to be Blank on the defense first. Going to be Flashwolves on the offense. They already know what they're going to do. I feel good here. I see Trill back on the Diva.
Yep, Blank still running a 2-2-2, but it's going to be a dive-based one where you're just looking to just counter-engage the enemy, but they need to be aggressive, right? Flashwolves are running Zonda. They're going to be looking to put him up on that high ground. They will bodyguard him to get him up there, so Blank need to recognize that this is happening, that this is going on, and jump up there immediately. You've got Kiki, you've got Trill, you've got all that vertical mobility to go and deal with Zonda. You need to go and utilize it. Don't let Flashwolves get into the position that they want to.
Oh, and Blank looking a little bit scared here, not really contesting any of these positions just yet. It is going to be Atar up there, just doing it by himself. And Eat Up again, not looking for a very aggressive position himself as well. So now Blank trying to take the fight to the front lines of Flashwolves here. Bacon Jack doing a great job at poking just around the side of the hotel now. And this is slowly forcing Blank backwards.
I mean, they're slowly capping some of the points, so Blank do need to actually move forward, stay on the point, start contesting. The big question is, where is Zonda? He's up on the high ground. The Flashwolves, they've got him into position, but Blank, they're starting to challenge the forces on the ground.
Oh, that pulse bomb going to be taking Gumber out as well, and he did have the boost as well. There was a trade now coming up from the side of Blank, but Blank, if they want to hold on to this, they need to pick themselves up another kill because the position that Flashwolves have here is so very strong. Look at where Bacon Jack is, the sound barrier coming in now. It's going to be diving in from Kiki as well. He doesn't really manage to trap much of these Flashwolves players, and they easily just retreat out of this fight. Atar, though, finds a very big kill onto Bacon Jack, so that's going to be big for them, but they still have control of that high ground. Atar now in a huge spot of bother here, just in the nick of time gets healed up. Big pulse bomb, though. Oh my goodness, that's going to be huge there as Eat Up manages to find a triple. Look at that self-destruct position, though. Boom! There goes Eat Up out of this fight. And is that all hope lost for Blank? Not with Atar hitting that tactical visor. Good sleep there as well. Can they finish off Bacon Jack? No, they can't. He now has another Transcendence as well to work with. Nano Boost coming through onto Trill here. So Blank need to get themselves back onto this because obviously Flashwolves having a very short time to run back onto the point.
Yeah, that's desperation. They're throwing the Nano Boost onto Diva. You know you need to get in there, use the survivability of the ult just to keep on the point right now. They're still losing members. The self-destruct has to absolutely get some kills, but it's only going to zone them enough. Blank, they're just buying time here.
Yep, Zonda being able to push up in the front here, just only being blocked out by Trill. No real pressure being put onto him. Trill loses the mech now as well, and this is surely going to be Flashwolves capping out point number 1 in quite a good time as well. Let's see how they do in this street space.
The big question is, do they push forward, try and deny Blank any kind of positioning at all, leaving one person on the payload? It looks like that's exactly what they're planning to do. Zonda taking quite a long way up. Actually, It's going to be Flash Wolves just sitting back, trying to get position around the archway rather than denying Blank any kind of positioning of their own. Now, Atar, he's coming up to Tactical Visor. That can get them a lot of kills, but they don't have Nano Boost. And also, you've got to remember, K-Momo is just going to deny that. And in fact, on the last fight on the point, Zonda got a great Tactical Visor because he used it after Trill was taken out of the mech.
Oh, now Blank taking the fight to the archway right now. Flash Wolves just going to be falling back. Nothing really to keep them committed to this one other than a big payload in front of them. And now the answer coming through from Flash Wolves. There comes the Tactical Visor. Great push out from Kiki. That's going to be 2 ultimates pushed back just by Kiki pushing him out of the window there. Now Atar with a Tactical Visor. Can't finish off any of these kills here, but it will buy them enough time. So ultimates committed now from both sides.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great trade for Blank because, I mean, they're sitting there just buying plenty of time, keeping the payload right up against this archway. They need to be careful to not lose any members, though, because the second they do, that's a very, very long run back for them. And Flash Wolves can just sit back, respawn, and come in with another advantage. Now, Blank, even though it was roughly even trades for ults in that fight, Flash Wolves still have some in the bank. The big ones being those defensive ultimates. You've got Sound Barrier, Transcendence. You can chain them together so that you have such a long time of nigh invulnerability so that Blank just can't realistically go into the fight. And I think Blank are starting to recognize that.
And Trill losing the mech very early into this fight now. He can get it back here, but already kills coming up all in the way of Flash Wolves now. Look at that Primal Raging Jongi right there. He just goes absolutely in on this. Finds himself a double there. Bacon Jack to clean up the rest of them. And Blank just getting ripped in half.
That fight entirely one-sided. Blank were backing off as soon as they lose the mech. They just gave up all positioning, and Flash Wolves just pounced on them, and also got a lot of valuable kills because they didn't use Tactical Visor. They were using things like Primal Rage, Self-Destruct, things that charge up pretty consistently fast, and now they still have these defensive ultimates to still survive on the point. Bacon Jack's looking for a sneaky little kill here.
It's the Atar Genji. Does he even need to use the Pulse Bomb? It looks like negative as Gumba falls to the pistols here of Bacon Jack. Now Bacon Jack just going to work in the back lines. Tactical Visor from Zonda to just clean things up here. Getting cap number 2 very quickly now. Flash Wolves 3 minutes left to get all the way to the end. Ultimate advantage still in their favor as well. Do Blank have any answer for this? Atar needs to get that sword up quickly, but look at the sneaky Bacon Jack play here yet again.
He still has that pulse bomb, so he can just simply sit and wait until he finds an opportunity, get a kill, and with a numbers advantage, you don't even have to worry about ults nearly as much if you just run in with a 6v5. He gets a kill, still has his ultimate.
Yep, Kiki taken out of that fight again really early. What can Gumba find up in the back? He manages to keep himself alive as Bacon Jack was trying to search for him here. That'll be Gumba taken out of this fight. And Flash Wolves just rolling through this one right now. Is there anything Blank can do? Look at this, the spawn camp now coming out from Bacon Jack. He's not even scared. Can they even contest the payload right now? Oh, just in the nick of time, they get themselves out of spawn. This is surely going to be the last fight here. Sound Barrier now coming through. Gumba will pick that kill up onto him. And look at this, Flash Wolves, really smart play, just retreat ever so slightly around the corner. But Blank now will turn this one around.
They're still losing half their team, and still actually even more than that, their entire team does take a fall there. That's going to be ults built up for Blank, allowing them to stabilize. Dragon Blade wasn't used during that fight. Now they've got it to combo up with Transcendence as well, just to make sure that Atar isn't shut down by a Tactical Visor and keeps them alive during it. But that said, Flash will still have a lot of their own ults. Bacon Jack, we've seen he can get kills without even relying on Pulse Bomb. He can do that one more time. That should be a fight win for Flash Wolves.
Well, one more time, let's see who's going to be celebrating after this. Bacon Jack jumping straight up into the back lines. There comes the Transcendence out of the side of Blank to counteract that. Sound Barrier being used for Flash Wolves there. K-Momo going to be throwing in that Self-Destruct. Atar still hasn't just yet used the Dragon Blade, and Flash Wolves all up in the front lines here. Now Atar needs to find something, just swinging in the air, cannot only finds Realman. Is that going to be enough though? 2 kills apiece now, so we're in this 4v4. Obviously Spawner's advantage for Blank right now, but Flash Wolves are coming up with the kills. Can Atar contest enough while he's just by himself? Trill going to be slowly staggering back out, managing to push this one along just a little bit longer, but it looks like Flash Wolves should surely be able to get this one over as they kill the trickling respawners out.
Every single kill counts here for Blank. That's a really long respawn for Flash Wolves. They've got 1 kill onto Bacon Jack, but surely that's not enough. Zonda is just sitting back there completely uncontested, just shooting out everyone as soon as they respawn, and this is going to be the payload, making it all the way to the end of the 3rd checkpoint against Blank.
Well, 30 seconds still left in the bank there, so I mean Flash Wolves are, not cutting it a little bit close, but Blank just looking completely sloppy and all over the place there on point number 2. Their streets phase was absolutely...
It showed
It started
promise.
strong, but then...
It showed
gone.
promise at the start, right? But as soon as they not even lost a fight, lost a mech and most of their positioning, they were just forced away. And you saw how aggressively Flash was pushed forward. They pushed all the way into the 3rd checkpoint itself and just denied them any kind of entry. Bacon Jack being in the backline, again, actually getting value kills without using his ultimate. And we see him on the camera so often that it's hard to ignore the effect that he's having against Blank, always demanding attention. And then, of course, off on the sidelines, Zonda getting the tactical visor. When there's no D.Va in sight, he's going to get a huge amount of value out of it. No mech, or maybe even Trill is just flying back from the spawn. Then there's no way to deny Zonda and his tactical visor.
Well, going to be interesting to see what Blank can find on their offense here. I mean, we've sort of seen, Blank sometimes come into this first point on King's Row and just be extremely dead. They're just extremely quiet when they come into this one. And I'm unsure about this. I feel like it's going to be much of the same. They're looking extremely shaky. This is not the same Blank that we've seen after week number 1.
My oceanic heart is pounding a little bit for Blank right now. They don't have a lot of promise against this first point. If history tells any kind of story, they are going to struggle here. And, well, if they're going to run a big dive composition, then they need to get in there really early. Look at that, all the way to the end of the 3rd checkpoint right now. And Blank, what are they going to be running on the attack here? It's going to be Atar once again on that Pharah. So that's great at setting up kills for Trill to go and get in there. You get a direct rocket hit. Trill can just go in with a swift strike, pick up an easy kill. But Zonda is going to be the big problem up there. They need to go up and contest him. It needs to be Trill and Kiki both up there. There's no D.Va to shut him down, so you need to kill him early before Tactical Visor comes into play.
Well, they are aware of that though, but Atar having a hard time staying up in the air. Oh, doing a little bit of self-damage, almost taking himself out of this one, and Zonda just finds that kill, and that's going to be huge now for Flash Wolves. They picked themselves up, eat up as well. So a lot of these big damage players for the side of Blank getting taken down there. One support down now as well, and Zonda just being very aggressive now in his high ground positioning here, just easily managing just to poke at these last few Blank players here. I don't think they're going to be able to make this attack work just yet. Now that Flash Wolves have got a little bit to work with, he will have that tactical visor coming through in the next fight.
Yeah, during this next fight, tactical visor is definitely going to be on the table. There's no D.Va to shut it down. The best hope they've really got is Trill going up there and deflecting it back into his face. But generally, you can just stop holding left click and it doesn't become a problem. So Zonda will be able to deal with that. Blank going in aggressive, just trying to buy out ults here.
Well, Kiki again overextending ever so slightly there. Pays with his life for that one. Now Gumba going to be dropping next as well. Bacon Jack just having a field day here. Should now be able to get up in the back lines, but not overcommitting too much of this. Just going to be Zonda getting extremely aggressive yet again. And he's just going to go back, reset, and do it all over again. And now 2 ultimates here up on the side of Flash Wolves. Everything that Blank now are going to throw at them, they will have options to deal with that.
They've swapped up their composition as well. Trill now on the D.Va, so now they do have an option to shut down Zonda in this tactical visor. And I do kind of like that because you don't have to wait for your ultimate to stop him. You literally just fly up to his platform and hold right click. That's all they need to do. So now they're denying one of the biggest tools Flash Wolves have to win this next fight. And they're picking up trades here and there. Is it going to be enough?
Well, Edom needs to find something here with this pulse bomb. He just throws it out willy-nilly, gets absolutely nothing with it, and now Zonda with that tactical visor was easily able to push back the attack of Blank here. And look at this, Blank have to retreat out of this fight. And Blank, I think, have made an absolute disastrous mistake of picking King's Row here. This is going to be much of the same as last night. 1:50 left on the clock. Blank are going to need to come up with something big. Their offense just falling a little short at the moment.
They're nowhere near any of their DPS ultimates right now. They have to use Transcendence just to survive in the fight. They're just going to brute force their way in.
And it's not working out for them. Kills coming up in the way of Flash Wolves. Going to be Zonda easily able to clean up the rest of these kills now as they just try to get their way out of the gate. And look at this, Flash Wolves taking it right to the spawn.
As they should as well, trying to get every second out of this fight just to get those staggered kills. Now Blank, they used an ultimate during their fight. It got absolutely nothing, not even a single kill. You don't even have a window. They're going for desperation here, trying to get these picks with Widowmaker. This is realistically their only hope here. They don't have ultimates to work with. They've been just using them too much. Now, if they can get just a surprise kill here, that would have been enough, but the cat's out of the bag. There's a Widowmaker.
They've found out indeed Atar does have the sword to work with. Kiki hitting the rage up in this fight here. Atar finding that kill onto Jongi. He was primal raging as well. Bacon Jack throwing it out, doesn't find anything with it. Sound barrier there coming through. through for the side of Blank. They need to find some kills. Eat Up in a very good position here. And again, ATAR just swinging into thin air, finding nothing. Tactical visor now for Zonda. This is absolutely huge. ATAR does manage to pick up the kill onto him, but it's definitely not enough as the rest of his team are nowhere to be found. Bacon Jack just holding out here, trying to let Trill slowly fall back here as the rest of his team wipe him out, buy themselves some extra few seconds. 26 left on the clock, and Blank are looking extremely empty right now.
If there's any hope, it's that, well, I guess Realment died at the end of the fight there. They've got one small window, but it's a Lucio. He can get back to the point reasonably quickly. They're just looking for one pick. This is the entire Blank strategy right now, is getting a headshot, getting a kill, and going with a numbers advantage. This is all they've got to go with.
And Eat Up cannot find a kill at all. Kiki up in the front lines doing a decent... Oh, finds that sneaky kill there onto Momo as he throws out the self-destruct. Now counter self-destruct coming through from Blank there. But with ATAR and Trill down, things are not looking too good. Trill did manage to pick up a support there on the side of Flash Wolves. It was a Zenyatta, but I don't think that's going to be enough. No one really contesting Zonda up in the high ground.
But now that the fight's got a little bit messy, Eat Up has a little bit more room to play with. He's actually finding kills here. But someone has to actually stay on the point, and eventually Blank tanks are going to run out. Bacon Jack, he's still running around. He's still a problem.
Oh, the pressure put straight onto Eat Up there. RQT getting taken down as well by Zonda. Overtime ticking down. Blank got extremely close to capping that one out. But can they throw bodies back onto the point? The whole side of Flash Wolves are back now. ATAR coming in with the hero play. But that Transcendent should easily be able to keep everyone alive through that. ATAR just getting taken out by that tactical visor there. And I have no answer here. Blank cannot do anything. And Flash Wolves full hold them, and now leading the series 2-0. Blank falling from grace.
Fellas, I think we have a real tournament on our hands. After the first week, I'm thinking, okay, all these results are pretty predictable. Everyone's beaten the teams below them, but upset after upset after upset. I mean, it's hard to call them upsets right now because the games have been pretty close, but 2-0 to Blank, full holding them on King's Row. Flash Wolves is not looking like the team they were last week. They are absolutely contesting the kings of the OPC right now. Blank, they've got to win 3 in a row to come back in the series.
So here's the thing, why, at this sort of point in time, I'm sitting here thinking, why do Flash Wolves even bother with 3 DPS? Their 2-2-2 is so good. Why are you trying, don't copy Blank. Blank are good at what they do. You're good at what you do. Flash
Be
Wolves,
your own man.
Flash Wolves, you do you. You do you, Flash Wolves, because you're doing just fine on your own.
Oh, they're definitely doing fine now, leading the series 2-0.
Don't look at those magazines with Blank's fine ass body. You doing just fine on your own. You love who you are, Flash Wolves, because you're okay.
They are definitely okay. I just am so gobsmacked right now.
So I know you can shoot blanks, but I didn't know you can swing blanks too. That was a new thing for me.
Well, I mean,
it's time to stop.
It's been
It's time to
swinging
stop.
blanks a little bit in the series here.
Look, the realistic part of this right now is that Blank are very uncomfortable in this situation quite clearly. I mean, they're not used to it. Like I said before, last night against AHQ was the first time that they not only lost a series, but have ever been behind in a series. They're now sitting 2-0 down. This is also the first time they've been in this specific situation where they've got to win 3.
For everything.
Yeah, first for everything, right? They've got to win 3 in a row. And we talked about how Control was probably their strongest map type against Flash Wolves. And then Kings are, okay, yeah, maybe they're not their greatest. We're coming up against Assault. And this is where the most teams, when they've taken a map off of Blank, they take it off them on Assault.
Really, I think it's about even with Hybrid now.
Yeah, yeah.
To be honest, it's literally now even with Hybrid. And after Blank's more recent performances, I think Blank's Assault has really sharpened up quite a bit to the point now where I believe Hybrid might actually be a much bigger weakness than Assault specifically for Blank. So yeah, I think things have sort of changed up, and the final desperation plays out of Blank as well, chucking Eat Up on the Widow, doing all of these things. You know, their initial rollout with the fire as well. Zonda on top of that, so hard. ATAR even shooting himself in the face. Like everything just kind of going wrong for Blank in those opening moments. And we talked about this in previous matchups. Once you start playing compositional catch-up, especially when you got limited time, you've already wasted a minute and a half on your initial composition. Cool, now let's change it up. Let's get rid of the fire. Let's put Trill onto the Diva, put ATAR onto the Genji. No, that doesn't work. Okay, put Eat Up onto the Widow. How many ults have you lost? How much time have you lost? And where is the game now? Meanwhile, the rest of Flash Wolves are sitting back there, happy to charge. The rest of World sitting ahead, sitting advantageously in a position where they're bunkered up, and everything Blank has been throwing at them has been deflected.
I mean, I might say that pick onto the Widowmaker was just a little bit too hasty, I think. I think if they managed to sort of...
Seemed like a knee-jerk thing, right? It seemed a bit of a knee-jerk reaction.
I think if they kept Eat Up on the Tracer or something, it would have worked out
Eat
a
Up
lot.
should have gone on Soldier.
Oh, that actually would have worked.
That would have been the
once they made
best
that
because
switch.
he's a great soldier.
He could have
Soldier's
contested Zonda.
consistent. Widowmaker's binary, whereas Soldier, even if you're not getting those sick headshots for the instant kills, your just standard damage output is really respectable. Zonda knows that. That's why, look, this is the thing. You put K-Momo on Soldier, lackluster. You put Zonda on Soldier, wow, Flash Wolves are a team now.
And you put Eat You Up on Soldier, usually does quite well, but I think at that point in time, Blank had already thrown so many fights at Flash Wolves on the point where they knew they were behind. They knew that they were never going to win a fight purely through ultimates.
You know what it is?
It was the panic.
It was not, yeah, but specifically, Blank have now shown a weakness to, they couldn't deal with Disease Soldier last night on Kings Row, and likewise they couldn't deal with Zonda Soldier tonight on Kings Row. So it's history repeating itself. They're losing to the same thing they lost to last night in a very kind of similar-ish kind of way. And, you know, for Blank, they only had one night to really look at that. This might just be the weekend, similar to last weekend for Flash Wolves, where week 5 is just not the week for Blank. They're going to have to go away for a week, go to scrims, do their homework, and come back just like Flash Wolves have come back, and come back so strong that it's unprecedented.
I mean, there might be that. They might have had that. I guess that little bit of level of complacency, you know, coming into last night's matchup against AHQ, being like, oh, we've never lost. It's just going to be the rinse and repeat, and then they lose, and then. We'll pick Kings Row. We'll pick Kings Row against Flash Wolves, even though we just lost control, which usually we just destroy everybody at. But obviously it didn't work out too well for them. You know, map 3 going to be coming up very shortly, and it is going to be Flash Wolves' pick again. So Blank with, I guess, their backs most definitely against the wall in this one. Really, they're going to need to come up with something big here, and I think it might either be, going back to maybe their basics, putting Trill back on the Reinhardt, Eat Up on the Soldier. They're going to have to change something.
It doesn't even have to be all the way back to the Reinhardt either. Put Trill on Diva from the start. Make sure that he's there to shut down Zonda. Zonda, as Avril said, clearly a huge problem for them. They're not giving him the attention he deserves or not able to shut down his ultimates quite often. I mean, Trill on Diva, one of the best ways to shut that down. Send in someone to dive up there with him. Probably not Kiki on Winston. He should be diving everyone else. But you've also got a Genji. You've got Atar who can play that hero. Like, why not put him on that? Send those two up there, and Zonda, you can be the best soldier in the world, but like Soldier literally cannot do enough damage to stop those heroes.
Well, we're going to see what Blank can pull out of the bag. It's going to be map 3 coming up next after the break. Hello and welcome back to the Overwatch Pacific Championship English broadcast. I'm Dallas Easy Fighter. Joining me here, Matt, Smite, Ross, and Kevin, super hard worker.
Avril?
Oh my goodness, that was absolutely shocking. I just had this super good one lined up for you to lead into the next part. But
Every time you reintroduce me, I'm a harder and harder worker.
It actually is getting so much harder. And you know what else is getting harder? Trying to beat Flash Wolves if you're Blank right now.
That's not easy.
Nice, get into that one. Take it away from me, boys.
I think the giveaway here is that I think Blank have improved substantially on Assault. So realistically, this is potentially the turnaround for Blank. Blank, they're definitely cornered, and it's fight or flight mode for Blank. They can either start to fight back, or this is actually going to be 3-0. And if they get 3-0 against Flash Wolves, then it's just like, it's just kind of party pooping AHQ. But it's like, hey, you remember how you beat Blank? Well, we just 3-0.
Well, if they do beat Blank, then it also allows AHQ to sit up there tied with Blank. So I mean, you're kind of party pooping AHQ's huge achievement, but you're also putting them up the leaderboard too. So it's helping AHQ out as well. So, I mean, yeah, double-edged
Wow, it's a win-win for Taiwan. Who knew?
That's it. They're all working together to bring Blank down. That's
I mean,
what it is.
I was going to bring that up as a point. Do you reckon after they both sort of lost to Blank, they were like, okay,
What do we do?
what do we do?
Okay. To be honest, the whole country's just working against Blank right now because you're playing in Taiwan with 3 Taiwanese teams. The local crowd supports their local teams. That's a given. That's normal, all right? So Blank have naturally always had a bit of a disadvantage playing in, away from their home country and all that sort of going on. So the fact that they've done extremely well as it is just goes to show how much their skill is incredibly insane in terms of the overall scope of international competition. And I'd like to think of this moment as not so much what's happening to Blank, but rather AHQ and Flash Wolves are doing a great job of stepping up.
Well, let's also talk about like the two teams that have either beaten them or are about to, threatening to beat them here. Not about to. Don't worry.
Oh, you said
threatening to beat Blank here.
Big
Sitting
call.
up 2-0. Well, hey, I mean, after that, maybe it's not such a big call. But these two teams, Flash Wolves, AHQ, huge international brands. They have tons of resources behind them.
Imagine if betting just wasn't with money anymore, it was just in shoes. Like everyone just bet in how many shoes they want to eat. There's just no money involved in sports betting.
Can you imagine being someone that actually liked to eat shoes though? Like you'd be rich.
You'd be no, you wouldn't. You'd be chewing through those shoes. No, would you? You wouldn't. You wouldn't be eating the shoes because you'd be winning too much. Would you throw the bet so that you could eat more shoes?
Well, no, you'd make more risky bets because you don't really care if you lose.
Yeah.
And
okay.
But really, what do you get out of it?
Alright,
You just make other people.
The
eat
real
shoes.
issue is
Easy's
that Flash
Easy's getting
Wolves
back on track. So
have picked
Smite.
Hanamura, and I mean, Blank have looked, somewhat strong on Hanamura, but last night, not so good. And I mean, last time they came up against Flash Wolves, I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah, but
I don't even know where to begin.
But last time that was when it was still Blank. We're in what's assault mode? I've never played
Pick
assault
Reaper.
before. That's back then. Now it's Blank saying, look, okay, assault's something that we've patched up. I'm not expecting the same result as before in terms of like, I don't know. I don't want to say score-wise, like who's going to win, who's going to lose, but in terms of like what Blank's approach to Hanamura and what Blank's approach to Assault is, it's not going to be like it was a couple of weeks ago. It's going to be far improved. Now, Flash Wolves think it's going to be the same as it was last time. I think Flash Wolves are going to be in for a bit of a shock.
But Flash Wolves would have also watched the series against AHQ, which was, by the way, on Hanamura for that map, where even though AHQ did take out the victory, it was literally down to like a 1% difference on the second point. So it really could have gone either way at that point. But I've got to say that both teams did fairly well on defense, but seemed to struggle a little bit on the actual offense part. And you could see what Blank were trying to do on trying to go in and assault the point. They were trying to entrench, eat you up on the Soldier, because also they swapped onto Soldier as well, just to really break through that point.
You didn't play Soldier until Dorado, so it was still ATAR on Soldier.
Was it still ATA? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, my mistake then. But in any case,
And also Thai teams can also backcap.
yeah, that's true. That's how we got to that point. That's how we got there.
And the thing about AHQ is they were still running Torbjorn-based strategy for defenses. I don't expect Flash Wolves to come out with that. I don't think they should. So AHQ were winning with kind of Torb compositions, which, let's be honest, they weren't too flashy against Blank. They weren't super effective. They were kind of like, oh, that's happening, and then Blank like, okay, now it's time to deal with it. So for Flash Wolves, what's working? 222 is working, K-Mom on Diva is working, and Zonda on Soldier is working. I see no reason for Flash Wolves to change up what they're doing whatsoever. It's incredibly effective, and I don't even know why they tried to play triple DPS to start with, because what they're doing here, again, is so good.
I mean, I think they probably only tried to do that triple DPS against Detonator Gold as practice.
As a trial.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I mean,
You know what it is? You said this as well. It's like, which one of you guys said it was like a Flash was purposely holding back? It's like, yeah. Let's hold back by not showing anyone what our 222 looks like anymore. Let's make everyone pretend.
Well, triple DPS now, boys.
Let's pretend and just show everyone. I was like, oh yeah, we only play triple DPS now. It's just like, oh yeah, by the way, Blank, here's our 222 again that you haven't seen for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, and then I was
or
like,
2 weeks.
before we get into the series, I think that if Flash Wolves play anything like that, they're going to have a really hard time against Blank. And now I'm sitting here.
But you're
thinking,
right. They would have. They still would.
But now I'm thinking Blank need to pull, my goodness, a rabbit out of a hat or something coming into this next one, because we're moments away from Hanamura here, and Blank down 2-0 against Flash Wolves, back against the wall. I sort of talked about it as well, do Blank come out as that wounded animal, or do they come out with that ferocity?
Fight or flight, right?
And now this is when we're really going to get to see it here.
Well, it's not a situation we find ourselves in very often, right? I mean, there's not a lot of history, not a lot of statistics to go off with Blank being in a situation like this. I think they've literally never, with this roster, been 2-0 down. So I guess now is the first time we're going to see. Are they going to be completely demoralized by it? Dare I say it, even a little bit tilted. I mean, at this level of play, you cannot afford to have that happen.
And Avril mentioned, you know, the 2-2-2 coming out from Flash Wolves on their defense here. Going to be not changing anything up on their side. And Blank going to be having Eat Up on the Widow now. So a little bit warmed up from Kings Row, looking to really open this one up with a big pick. It's going to be all on him here. And it's going to be Atar on the Tracer.
Yeah, that's new as well, but I mean, if you can just pick up one kill here, that's enough for Blank to go in, especially if they pick it up onto Zonda. But they're getting a mech kill there.
Atar just charging in, isn't even worried. He's going to pick himself up this Winston as well here. So now Blank really should be able to push into this one. Oh, look at Eat Up. Such great positioning there. Getting a lot of work done with this one. Now Atar being the big change here on that Tracer, really pushing in and forcing Flash Wolves back. This is going to be a very fast first cap here for Blank.
Well, Flash Wolves backing off very, very well, which means that now Blank can't actually snowball onto the point. Look at the ults, right? I mean, Atar even used Pulse Bomb during that, so they don't even have that ultimate for this fight on the point. So it's really just going to be from a standstill here. They've swapped Zonda over onto the Genji to go and deal with Iwap, who is actually still on the Widowmaker, by the way, onto the second point.
Well, we're just probably looking to get a little bit of the Infra sight up to see if they can use that to get a little positioning going on inside here. But Flash Wolves picking themselves up now, a couple of kills. This should be able to stabilize them off the back of that now, and now Blank are going to have to rethink their attack.
And there it is, Eat Up, swapping over onto the Soldier, away from that Widowmaker, just seeing if they can get a bit of a cheeky kill, because remember, they didn't have any momentum going into that. If they got a single kill there, they could have gone in with that. But this is different. Atar, no, okay, not going to be on the Sombra. That was going to be something to talk about. He's now onto the Genji, right? So bit more traditional here from Blank. They're running the 2-2-2 once more, but so are Flash Wolves. And really, this is going to be the problem right here on your screen. It's Zonda in such a tricky position to take down. You've got to send someone up there with vertical mobility. You can't challenge him any other way. And he's always going to have K-Momo there to back him up. They've also got a Nano Boost, but who are you going to use it on, right? So Blank have a moment to go in, but only with defensive ults.
Oh, it's going to be the boost here onto Bacon Jack, looking to clean things up, and indeed, he is finding a lot with this with that Nano Boost there, picking himself up a pair. Zonda now uncontested, picks up Atar with the Helix Rocket over on the side there. Now Zhongi should be able to hold this high ground as he allows Zonda probably to get back up on the high ground yet again. And look at this sort of change up now coming from Flash Wolves here. So they put a lot of pressure now up onto this high ground where they can test wherever Blank can sort of whatever Blank are going to throw at them as they try to work their way in.
Well, Blank are always going to want to contest that balcony, and for good reason as well. That's why Flash Wolves are defending it so hard. You get your soldier up there, it becomes such an annoying position. Once you start losing the fight, your defender's advantage doesn't matter if soldier's up there.
And this is the issue though, we've seen this in the last time they played on Hanamura here. Zonda up in that position is so hard to deal with. They tried to push him out just before, they paid the price there with Bacon Jack getting Nano Boost, and now it's just going to be Blank getting forced off that high ground now. Didn't really lose anything too much in that fight here, so this is looking quite good now. If they can manage to get Eat Up entrenched on this high ground, that's going to be really good. Transcendence as well being used, but Zhongi catching Eat Up in the back lines there as the rest of the team drops down, and now they're going to be able to force Blank back out the front gate here, but they're not going to overcommit too much. Smart play there from Flash Wolves.
Transcendence in reaction to nothing. No ultimates used by Flash Wolves. It almost looked like Blank were just trying to get positioning there. In fact, actually, simply, they were just going to swap off the Zenyatta, so that's why that was coming out there. But really, that's just time that Blank don't have. Now that they've got Goomba on Ana, they're going to be able to build up to that Nano Blade combo, one of the best ways to just fully clean up a team and fully cap the point. However, Flash Wolves are facing, they're sitting with so many ultimates in the bank right now, throwing out another Nano Boost.
A lot of pressure straight onto Trill here. They need to pick this kill up onto Zhongi. He manages to escape out the window there, so he is going to be able to get back into this fight. He does have that Primal Rage to work with as well, and Atar falls to Zonda. Disaster yet again for Blank. Eat Up, even though he's in that good position, instantly jumped on by the Diva and the Winston there. Does have the Tactical Visor up, but that's not going to be useful in this situation here. And Flash Wolves just playing this point 2 defense absolutely perfectly. Blank have still 0% on the clock, much like the last time they played Hanamura here. They're going to need to really change something up.
Flash Wolves are being so careful with how many ultimates they commit to fights, to the point where they're throwing out Nano Boost without even comboing them with other ults. And it's working for them. They're getting great trades. I mean, Trill ended up using Primal Rage during that fight, so trading one ult for one ult, buying enough time for your team to go in for another fight.
And Blank just trying to brute force their way up into the high ground. Indeed, they do battering ram their way up there. Retreat coming now from the likes of Flash Wolves. But they still haven't really dealt with Zonda, and I think that's the main issue here.
They're trying to.
They are trying, of course they're trying to, but they really need to put a lot of pressure onto that. They've got control of the high ground now, but now Zonda moderately uncontested down there on the low ground as the rest of Flash will just recontest here and just clean up these Blank players. Is there any answer for this defense? It looks like no right now.
So when I say they're trying to, it means like they actually were. They forced Zonda off of the high ground, and he was just running around on the low ground. And there's the D.Va asleep once more. Time that Blank does not have, but still, Zonda forced off the high ground. He was able to run back into his spawn, stay alive, and Blank were actually committing several members to that, which meant Flash Wolves just won the fight up on the balcony. There's no brute force if you don't have enough numbers to go into it. Now, at the very least, Blank are building up to a 6-man ult of their own, but Flash Wolves, they're already there. This is going to be a heavy team fight for both teams if all these ults are used.
Yeah, with Flash Wolves already sitting on 6 here, anything that Blank can throw at them should easily be able to be caught and then thrown back at them. Look at that counter Nano Boost almost instantly. Great communication there for the side of Flash Wolves. Chasing Zonda down, they do manage to find him, but Bacon Jack getting a soldier of his own there. So the soldier's being the first to fall in this fight. Flash Wolves slightly ahead now, 4v4, make that 4v3 as Atar picks himself up here, and K-Momo does have that self-destruct to use. This is a great zoning technique here on this point. He is actually not going to be using that one just yet, so going to be holding on to that, and it's just going to be Jongy being able to hold this one down by himself, going to be catching Trill over here, looking to stagger this kill onto him as well, buying them just a crucial few seconds there.
And the most important kills during that was Bacon Jack getting the kill onto Eat Up with that pulse bomb. The most important way to fully cap this point here is having Soldier just entrenched up on the balcony, up on the high ground, because when you're throwing bodies at the point with your respawn's advantage, you're at threat of just Soldier shooting you down as you come out. But with Eat Up not there, they could eventually just come back in and win the fight purely through just even trades because they've got the defender's advantage.
And this is just Groundhog Day yet again. Blank coming up through the same route. We'll try to get control of this high ground here. Zonda gets slowly pushed off this high ground positioning, but will they be able to pick up any of these kills there? The Helix Rocket doesn't connect. A couple of headshots there as well. Still doesn't find that kill onto any of the squishy players from Flash Wolves there. Trill in a decent position now to get this fight started, but we'll have to fall back as instantly Flash Wolves are all over him and all over this high ground here. 2 players dropping down for the side of Blank. They need to fall back, and they need to fall back fast. Only 40 seconds left on the clock here.
And that's a fight that Blank were trying to buy out ultimates of Flash Wolves so they could go in one last time with any kind of ult advantage that they could possibly get, but Flash Wolves used nothing during that, and this is such a similar story. They're coming up to 6 ultimates again, and Blank, what have they got? They've got Atar's Dragon Blade, no Nano Boost to go with it. Goomba doesn't have time to build that up. They need to get a lot of value out of that. Eat Up is going to have to get his tactical visor during the fight, but honestly, against the Flash Wolves with 6 ultimates, it's going to take a miracle for Blank to pull out a win.
Well,
here.
Atar even having trouble just pushing in now. Gets up into Zonda's face here. Hits the Dragon Blade very early. Finds absolutely nothing there. Does not manage to take Zonda down. He's got that tactical visor up as well and just takes down RQT. Does he even manage to get the sound barrier off? He did though. But look at this. Blank are just getting absolutely wiped right now. Self-destruct, a little bit of a consolation kill there. Overtime ticking down. This is surely going to be all Flash Wolves holding this down on point number 2. Not even letting Blank get a single % here. So this is absolutely insane. Again, these Blank players can throw bodies at the point, but this is just this is not going to do anything for them here. And Flash Wolves, great point 2 defense yet again. Blank still have not worked out how to really deal with this point 2.
And Flash Wolves had about, Blank had about as much time as they could ask for on that second point. They capped first point
7-11.
almost immediately. Was that actually the
I think
time?
it was 7-11 as they capped over.
That's really funny because even with all that luck, they still weren't able to come in and cap the point. And the strategy was the same every single time. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It was just execution was always not quite there. They were either committing too many members to deal with Zonda, and the times that they actually got him off the high ground, it was just too much committed to it. And then you're not able to brute force up on the balcony. You saw Jongi bouncing between the ground and back up onto the balcony after he got healed back up, just constantly knowing where he could go back and get healed back up once more, just to contest. I think Jongi played that Winston on second point so well, like constantly dropping the shields, constantly contesting the eat-up, and also just getting so much damage with that Tesla cannon on the hugely grouped up members of Blank trying to brute force their way onto the balcony.
After Avril mentioned Jongi on map number 1 on Nepal there, I've sort of been paying a little bit more attention, and I think we've sort of talked about some of these standout diva players, but Jongi on this Winston is insane. He's absolutely insane. The way that he is the master beta, as I mentioned earlier. He manages to sort of bring these fights when Blank technically don't want to take them. He's right on top of them. They think, okay, sweet, we can kill the Winston. Let's get him really quickly. He manages to pull himself out. But I guess his timing on everything is like absolutely superb. And I mean, it's absolutely insane. I feel like he's such a core, integral piece that really lets Zonda perform.
Now, I might have seen something. I'm gonna have to see the rosters, but that's what I think it was. Oh, okay, no, I thought I saw an Orisa for a second, and I thought Flash Wolves were going to bring it out because they're the only team to actually bring out Orisa, but never mind, forget all that. They're going to go in and look with a pretty similar composition to what they're usually running. There's no reason to change things up. Zonda is constantly bodyguarded. Jongi has these great engagements. Now the question is, can Flash Wolves take the first point as quickly as Blank? Because Blank need to buy all the time they can get. Remember, they didn't get anything on second point. They have to defend 33%. After that, they lose.
Well, Blank putting up a little bit more of an aggressive hold at the front gate here. Bacon Jack has managed to snake his way around into the side, going to be falling back to the rest of the team now, as Flash will push their way inside into the right-hand room here, and now they should be able to get control of the high ground out of this as well. They will go around the backside, look to force out any sort of sneaky soldiers and tracers that might be hiding up in here, and now they've set themselves up for a very good position to get an attack going.
And Blank just don't really have the composition to deny you just walking through the front doors. They're going to try and take the defensive position up here. There's a slight amount of high ground on the opposite side of that as well. But really, if Flash Wolves want the point, they're going to have to dive on. Bacon Jack has to find value, but look at that. Gigi's all over him.
Oh, almost managing to take him down there. Bacon Jack dropping very low. Has no recall to use here, so this is going to be the moment that they need to pounce on top of him. But the rest of his team doing decent amount of damage to the side of Blank here. They are managing to do a good job at locking down the point. And now, this should be now when Blank can really push their way back into it, but you've got to watch out. Zonda has that tactical visor to work with. Eat-Up is going to be looking for a Pulse Bomb kill himself. Trill now has that Primal Rage. There comes the Pulse Bomb! It's a double from Eat-Up there, just before that sound barrier gets used there as well from the side of Blank. So a little bit of overcommitment coming out from the Blank side there, but they will be able to stabilize their defense off this.
That's an okay overcommitment though, because the Pulse Bomb realistically should never have got 2 kills off of that. So really that's just a bonus, the icing on the cake, right? So I mean, yes, it would have been better to not use the sound barrier, but at the same time, they can be okay with that. Now, Flash Wolves, what have they got to come back in with this? They're still ages away because Zonda used his tactical visor during that fight, won't have that available. And Blank, they're still building up to another ultimate advantage. The DPS ults, they've got their own tactical visor. No Nano Boost, actually, Nano Boost is quite close as well, so they can combo that. Who's contesting Eat-Up?
Eat-Up gone. Well, that would be Bacon Jack as he finds that early kill now. And without Eat-Up, he's been such an integral part of the Blank side here. This is going to be a disaster for them. As you can see, Gumba falls down now as well. Nano Boost having to be forced out onto the Diva. Self-destruct being used in that enclosed room. Surely Flash Wolves can deal with that. Indeed they can. They get themselves back out of that, back onto the point. Start getting a little bit of cap time now. All of these Flash Wolves players are alive, and look at all the ultimates they have to work with. This is absolutely insane coming up from the Flash Wolves side, because now they've got such a huge amount of momentum to work with.
Break out the sweat towels, not just Blank, but Blank fans as well, because they're facing down almost 6 ultimates coming onto the second point. This is the best moment for Flash Wolves to strike right now. HR's just swapped, there's no Dragon Blade. Eat-Up is also swapping over onto Soldier. That's a whole lot of momentum. If anything they had is all now gone for Blank. They're facing down the toughest challenge they've faced all series right now, and Flash Wolves only need to cap 33%. So Defender's advantage isn't even going to play that huge factor it normally does.
And they've already managed to set Zonda up on the high ground as well. Not much of a contest now coming up from the side of Blank. If he can find the nice kill up onto the high ground that he was using himself. There goes Trill as well. This is looking disastrous now for Blank. There comes the Attack Visor as well. There surely should be now kills coming out in the way of Flash Wolves, and indeed it is. Blank just falling to pieces right now. What is actually happening? And still so many ultimates to work with. Flash Wolves looking so strong. Here, there it is! And that's going to be Flash Wolves taking the series 3-0. What have we just witnessed here? The fall from grace is hard, it's long, it's tough, and Blank, they're going to be feeling it now.
Wow, what a series. And we talked about how AHQ were playing for so long just to get the honor of walking across the stage to get that handshake with Blank. Flash Wolves have earned it too, and I've got to say, they earned it in a much more spectacular fashion than AHQ did last night. 3-0 against the top of the table. Absolutely demolishing Blank. Something has come out for Flash Wolves, and I'm liking it. You look a bit speechless there, Easy.
Here's a summary of what we just saw.
I don't know.
3-0.
3-0?
3-0. Wow.
Blank just seemed like they were the type of team to come back and just fight back hard.
Let's get the handshakes on screen, because I don't think we want to miss this one again. Because
handshakes on screen too.
That's what we're really playing here, boys. It's not about the money. It's all about the handshakes.
All about the handshakes.
And for the spectator, it's all about the shoes. Shoes and handshakes is what esports is all about in 2017.
Apparently, yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but like AHQ, I don't know about Flash Wolves as well there, but you noticed that they actually have like matching shoes to their uniform as well. They all have the same pair of shoes on as well.
Do the Flash Wolves have their names on the mouse pads as well?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
so I mean, these are integral pieces that really sort of push them over the edge there.
Exactly, and they got the jackets with the names on there. They got the wolf shirts.
So,
Blank needs some wolf shirts. I don't know.
Yeah,
Blank
gonna need to.
Yeah.
If they want to come back strong, they're gonna need to step up their attire. That's surely the that's surely the piece of analysis.
It's not about the way you play the game. It's what you wear when you're playing on the stage.
So I mean, let's have a little talk about, I guess, this matchup here.
Where do we start?
I mean, Jongi really good, Flash Wolves really good, Zonda really good, everything good.
Okay, so I'll talk about Hanamura because we talked about the other match. So Hanamura, let's have a look at let's go with attack first because Blank attacked first. One of the things for Blank was I noticed on the second point attack, they started switching up roles. So maybe not in a big way, but heroes. So Trill, he's been playing D.Va quite a lot. Kiki's been playing Winston. Suddenly they swap. Now Trill's on the Winston, Kiki's on the D.Va. I think this is another knee-jerk swap. This is like Kiki, I don't think was performing super well on King's Row. And Blank would have probably noticed that. Kiki might even say, look, I'm not feeling super comfortable with Winston. Cool, give Kiki his D.Va back. He's known to be a fairly decent D.Va player. Give the Winston to Trill. Unfortunately, Trill didn't have a hot day on Winston on Hanamura either. So at the moment, no one's finding great success on Winston. But you know who is? It's Jongi.
Yes.
Is finding insane success on Winston in a way that no one in Blank so far has been able to deal with. And it's just to Winston, and he shouldn't be doing as much as he's doing, but he's absolutely doing it. If you can't even get past Jongi, how are you meant to get to Zonda? And we said Zonda's been a huge problem as well, and Zonda's he's having a great time sitting in the back, and no one can even touch him. Atar really tried to contest him, and he did get a good Dragon Blade. We did take down Zonda mid-tack visor, mid-nano visor even. Unfortunately, the rest of Blank were falling to pieces while Atar was doing that. So
well, yeah, the big thing during that fight was that Bacon Jack got a pulse bomb onto Atar during that. So like that is what I think is the most important thing to have still alive during your attack on second point.
You know what it is? It's the Bacon Jack versus Eat Up matchup as well that's been really crazy because whoever's been coming out on top of that matchup has given their team a huge lead. Now you notice every time Eat Up went down early as the first kill, Blanka way behind. Like Blanka always, you'll notice that Blanka always in the game as long as Eat Up's alive because Eat Up will have these crazy moments where suddenly he'll pull 2 kills out of the bag, pull a 3rd kill out, pulse bomb a couple of dudes. It'll just happen. He's Eat Up on Tracer. Bacon Jack kind of does the same thing, not in as spectacular fashion as Eat Up, but if Eat Up ever dies early, Blanka just written off. It's crazy how consistent that is observationally from what I've seen so far.
Something I sort of want to bring up there, and just while we're on the sort of topic of Hanamura there, is I think, it was on purpose almost the way sort of Flash Wolves attacked point number 1, to get as much ultimate charge as they could out of that sort of first point there, so they could just snowball into point number 2, get their 33%, and obviously take home a 3-0 win extremely quickly there. I think that was extremely calculated from them. I don't think that they just we
yes and
lost.
no. Yes and no, because it wasn't super planned. It was more like that's your ideal result, but I don't think you can ever truly plan for that, because you can't go into a fight against blank who are defending and say, we're not going to use any ultimates here and somehow expect to win. I think you go into a situation, and what particularly happened there was they killed Eat Up, which, like I said, is a big comeback mechanic for Blank. They're like, oh, we just killed one of their main carries. You know, a big, like 50% of Blank's damage is gone. Cool, now we can play the 6v5, and let's see how well we do without ults. If we need to ult, we'll use it. If we don't need to ult, we won't. And they're just like, hey, we got a second kill, hey, we got a third. Wow, looks like we don't need to ult. Fantastic. It's exactly what Flash Wolves wanted to do. Now, do they plan for that? I'm not particularly convinced they did plan for it, but I think everything just fell into place.
It doesn't have to be a plan though. It's just the situation presents itself,
Yep,
and this is something that we don't see some of the lower teams, like specifically Detonator, Sun Sister, the Japanese teams. They suffer from this a lot.
You know what? I'll let you finish, but I just remembered something as well.
Okay, well, anyway, so the situation presents itself, and Flash Wolves, and a lot of other good teams will do this too, is they notice, okay, look, I mean, like you said, half their damage is gone. We've now got a big numbers advantage. We're going to be able to win this fight. Hey guys, you think we can do this with no ultimates? Probably. We'll use one if we need to, but like, if we get through this with no ults used, then we've pretty much won, and that's what happened.
And you know what, to be honest, I don't think, even if they had used ults there, to just cap 33% with the amount of time that they had, even if it meant they went in with 0 ults, yeah, it might cost them a couple of fights, but eventually somewhere in there, they're going to walk in with 5 or 6 ults. And in that moment, I don't see them not getting 33%. They might not cap, like, look, Blank walking with 6 ults, they don't cap. In fact, they didn't get anything, but that was also because Flash Wolves were sitting on 6 ults themselves, and they only used 4, Blank used 6. That was a really huge discrepancy there. Like, Flash Wolves really held back. Even at the end, we're like, well, it's crazy that that Hanamura didn't decide to self-destruct, but it was just the way it is. Now, what I wanted to bring up was, I said earlier, well, I've been saying since week 1, Eat Up has moments where he plays pretty aggressive. He has moments where he plays really
On the line.
really off-kilter. Like, it's just like, I'm Tracer Man, I'm going to kill everybody. And a lot of the time, he does, but when he doesn't, guess what? Flash Wolves are just like, you want to what? Okay, you're gone now. Let's just remove you.
You want to? Why are you here?
The other
We're
thing
just going
was,
to kill you.
I noticed when Flash Wolves were doing their attack there, I mean, there wasn't much to really notice on point number 2 because it was over like that, was when obviously Blank tried to sort of use the same situation, the same sort of defensive layout that, you know, Flash Wolves are using against them, but Flash Wolves are obviously so aware and so comfortable with that sort of, you know, those defending positions, you know, putting the soldier up on the high ground there. They even had, I think it was Trill up there on the Winston to protect him, and that was no issue for, I guess, Flash Wolves to deal with the route that they took. They really abused that left side rather than trying to take that high ground off Blank, and so, I mean, trying to use, you know, Flash Wolves' own medicine against them obviously didn't work out too well for them.
And you know what else as well? Bacon Jack, particularly on Nepal, really challenged Eat Up in a big way. Like, no other Tracer in the entire tournament has. Not even Cowman from AHQ, but Cowman's been like an okay Tracer, but he hasn't been on Bacon Jack or Eat Up's level. Bacon Jack and Eat Up, I think, are in a tier of their own in terms of Tracer plays in this tournament so far. And usually what happens is, Atar's a really intimidating Tracer to play against. He'll chase you, he'll 1v1 you, he doesn't care what the stakes are, he'll do it, and you'll freak out, and you'll be like, oh, I don't know what to do. Bacon Jack's like, you know what, I'm going to be the one to chase you, I'm going to pick the 1v1s this time, you're not going to be the one to choose the fights, I will choose the fights, I will engage you first, and for the first time, Eat Up was the one running away from the 1v1, not the other way around.
It's almost like the situation that Blank's in, where Eat Up is suddenly not the best Tracer in the series, he's suddenly not the one always initiating.
He loses initiative.
He's on the back foot because, like you said, he doesn't have initiative, and it's almost parallel to how Blank are in this series. First time they're, or actually second time now, but like not a situation they're used to being in. Down in this series, 1-0, 2-0, now suddenly 3-0, and it's just the way Eat Up was playing as well. Like he's suddenly like, I've never been in this situation before. What is this guy doing? Is this really how I play? Because it works really well, and I can't do anything about it.
Well, coming off situations we haven't really seen before, Blank are going to be having to play their next game coming up against Machi Esports, coming off a 3-0. We've just seen Flash Wolves take them down. and very convincing fashion. Obviously, Flash was picking up their first match as well, 3-0 against Detonated Gold. We can have a quick look at the scoreboard, at the current standings rather, of everything and how everything's sort of shaking up now. Now Flashwall's looking a lot safer there on 8-3, and now Blank and AHQ sitting tied equal on 9-2. So this next matchup for Blank is going to be a must win here, and obviously for Marchi, looking to get themselves up there with Hong Kong Attitude, who are going to be taking them on later on this evening in our final matchup of the night. Anything to sort of talk about these matches before we...
Yeah, I don't see Blank not being the first team to hit double digits for wins today. I think Blank will end up holding on to their first spot, but only just, and it's not going to be a comfortable hold.
Yeah, like I said at the top of the day, Marchi, they can be happy with taking one map off of Blank. They can be ecstatic with taking off 2, and, well, they can wake up from their dream when if they take off 3. But really, it's going to be about leading into their match against HKA. If they do well against Blank, that's going to be, a bit of a morale boost as well, saying like, oh yeah, guys, we can do this. We can take down the Gatekeepers' Hong Kong Attitude. And also, it's showing progress, right? Last time, it was 0-3 against Blank, no contest at all. If they can come back and take a single map off of them, it's showing progress in the tournament, showing improvement. So I think that's the biggest thing for that matchup against Blank. Against Hong Kong Attitude, I think we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but that is the most important match for Marchi today.
Well, we're going to see if Blank can rally and come back against Marchi Esports right after the break.